Hello, class. I've made a decision. I changed the parameters of this project. Uh, let's use pencil. This is a kind of a beginning project, and I can see some of you are having trouble controlling the lightness and darkness of your preliminary lines. So I'll make a deal with you. No rulers, but you can use a pencil, okay? So let's get started here. So I'm going to do the easy parts first, and I'm going to work off of the back wall pretty much, and then work forward. In other words, I'm going to do the closet, the cabinets against the wall, this cabinet on the bottom, the chair, and then work forward. If you make these too big, you'll run out of room. So I'm going to do the closet first and then the two cabinets. And I'm going to work kind of quick because we did review a lot of this in class anyway. So for the closet, I'm going to sketch in what would be the floor plan of that closet. Now, don't make your lines too dark. Just light enough so you can barely see them. That way, if you want to erase, it won't show up. So there's the floor plan right to the vanishing point. This is parallel to the back wall. Got it? Okay, now I'm going to go straight up. No rulers. You had this in your workbook. Do a couple practice runs with your hand. Here's a little technique I've learned. If you're drawing a long line and you want to keep it straight, draw a little bit, stop, reposition your hand. Instead of trying to draw one long line, it'll be real wavy. Let me darken that in just a little bit more. What I did, I drew it in about 3 segments. I lifted my hand and repositioned it. Okay. You're going to want to go up a little bit past the ceiling. Do the same thing on this side. You've got this line to gauge by. Keep it parallel to that line. You can see where I'm kind of repositioning my hand a little bit. Okay. Where this line intersects the wall, that's where you come straight across. Hope you can see that. Yeah, that looks dark enough on the screen. So this is the closest wall to me, and it will be just a 90-degree rectangles. And then from here, you're going to go to the vanishing point. And where it intersects the wall right here is where you stop. So come out like this to the vanishing point, and I'll darken that in just a little darker. Where that intersects the back wall, then you just bring that straight down. And if you're fairly accurate, it should line up with this. Again, the deal is you can use a pencil, but no rulers. Okay. And if you want to go ahead and do the perspective of the room in pencil also, so you can keep it kind of light, but I've already got it in ink. It was a last minute change. Okay. The next easiest thing will be the 2 wall cabinets. One is on the wall, one is actually on the floor. So I'm going to sketch in the imprint it would make on the back wall, which is going to be a 90-degree rectangle. From these corners right here, here, and here, I'm going to go to the vanishing point. So I'm drawing these in kind of light, then I'll darken a little bit more. I'm making my lines darker so that you can see them. And then from this one over here, remember the exercise where you draw to a point and look at the point? Okay. Now, don't make it way out here. This is just a narrow wall cabinet, so I'd say about here would be sufficient. And where it intersects this line is from the vanishing point. And where this intersects here, this is the point where it hits the wall right here. That point right there is where it hits the wall. Let me come in a little bit closer. I'll just, yeah, that'll work better. Okay. Remember, we're not after perfection, just accuracy. So this point right here goes straight up. That would be the corner. This point is against this wall. So where it intersects the corner right here is the point that you want. And that would go straight across. And it should intersect pretty closely to that point right here. So here's the face of the cabinet right here. Okay. I'm not going to do the base cabinet because the base cabinet is identical to this. You would just be working on it upside down. I think I showed you guys that already. It'd just be upside down. So let's bypass that. So I'm going to sketch that in real quick though, so I know how much room I'm taking up. So I'm kind of working quick on this. But I started with the floor plan, or you can use the imprint of the back wall, whichever. So I'm just eyeballing the height of it, would be right about here. This is the line that's on the wall right here. So there's the height of it to the vanishing point. Okay, so I've got this edge established. These go straight across. And you can see this line doesn't stop at the corner. It's this back line because that line is actually on the wall. So it stops right there. From the vanishing point and then straight down. And then if you're fairly accurate, it should line up all the way around. And this is where you might have to do a little bit of fudging. Okay, so there is the wall cabinet. And again, don't make these too dark because you're going to have some overlap. The inclined slab, just pick an angle and just pick a point. That's where it's going to hit the floor and say, here's where it's going to hit the wall. Just select an angle, make another line parallel to it. So from this point, it's going to go to the vanishing point. And again, if you turn this paper so that you're sighting right down that line, you'll be a little more accurate. And then from this one, so the pencil I think will help you guys gain a little confidence. So if this were just a thin piece of plywood or a piece of glass, it would look something like that. But we want to add the thickness. So because the end of this, even though it's on an angle, the end of this is still a plane that is parallel to the back wall, to this surface on the cabinet. So just make this a 90-degree. In other words, this is 90 degrees right in here. A 90-degree rectangle. See how these longer lines, I break those up into some shorter segments so I can reposition my hand. There's the slab. I think you can figure out the area rug. These are parallel to the back wall. These lines go to the vanishing point. Now it's important that you don't just guess at this. You know, I'm repositioning my eye so that I'm sighting down. I'm sighting in this direction from this point to the vanishing point. There's the area rug. Okay, let's do the doorway. Let's stretch this over. Hang on a second. Let's see if I can get that in there. Okay. The doorway, I'm going to make it, here's the edge of the closet. So just move it over just a little bit. If you come out too far, you're not going to have enough room for all this stuff. So here's the edge of my doorway. See how I'm breaking the lines up into short segments? Here's the width of the doorway. And I'm paying attention to the parallelism with this line. Okay. And then somewhere up near the top, strike a line that goes to the vanishing point. And I've got my oops, let me look a little bit. Let me reposition my stuff here. My bookcase is here, so my door is going to be behind the bookcase. So I'll just lightly put this in here. But there's the size of the doorway. Okay, you have to show the thickness of the wall. So from this point right here, a line that's parallel to the back wall. Mark the thickness right there. So that would come straight down, keeping the parallelism. And then this goes to the vanishing point. From this point, extends from the vanishing point. So now I'm just going to shade this in so it stands out a little more. That's the opening right there. Just a little bit of it to show you the opening. Okay, so that's where it opens up. Down here at the bottom, now I've got this in ink, but if you're doing it in pencil, this point right here where it intersects, where the edge of the door intersects the floor, that will go straight across as well. So this passes through right here. I'll darken that a little bit more. So this is all floor going through here. Okay, the four-legged table. Okay, so here's the floor plan of the table. I drew it in here. No, you know what? I'll do the chair first since the chair is behind the table. So here's the floor plan of the chair. Whoops, sorry about that. I wasn't paying attention. I've got to move this camera around. There we go. Okay, the floor plan of the chair. This is parallel to the back wall. Bring these corners up, make a cube just like we did with the isometric. And this front edge right here, I can draw in. Here will be the top of the cushion right about here. And maybe there's two arms. I'm going to put two arms in here. Okay. And then these lines go back to the vanishing point. Right here is the back of the chair going up. So we'll have that in a second here. Just keep these pretty narrow for those arms. And then the back is right here. That goes straight up. So see, I'm raising off of the armrest. And just whatever looks about right. And you're only going to see a little slit of the top of that back to the vanishing point. And right in here, vanishing point. And this would drop straight down right here. This is the seat right here. Here's the cushion. And if I want to put some legs on it. But if you think of this inside of a cube, it'll help. And then you'll see some of that leg right there. Some of this leg right here. Okay, so there's the chair. You know what? Just to make it a little easier, I'm going to move the area rug because I've done that chair and there's going to be a lot of overlap. I wanted you to see the whole chair. So my table will be right here. Here's the floor plan of the table. Area rug. When we're going to render this in marker, so you'll be retracing this neatly in ink. But so the area rug I'm going to leave just like it is. Here's the table. And I'm going to erase part of this cabinet back here because I don't want anything to interfere with my drawing to confuse you guys. So make a box. This is really actually pretty simple. Make a cubicle form. You know, you can make it whatever height looks about right. Vanishing point. Vanishing point. Keep your table simple. I'm just going to put like a slab So go to that. Here's my thickness of the tabletop. Here's one leg. Keep it real thin on this side. And this, you're going to see more of it. Because of the way the vanishing point is laid out. That goes to the vanishing point. Back here, you're going to see a very thin sliver, but then the rest of that leg is thicker. And that should project from here. You'll see part of this leg as well. Okay, there's a 4-leg table. What else we got? Skylight. Saving the stairs to last. Try to adjust the camera here. Oops. There. Parallel to the wall. Parallel to the wall. I would do it right above the vanishing point. That way you'll see both sides of the skylight. Parallel to the wall. Parallel to the wall. And just determine how big the opening is. Make it nice and big. Okay, vanishing point. Vanishing point. Okay, right now it just looks like a rectangle painted on the ceiling. From this corner and this corner, come straight up. And this will be a 90-degree rectangle. That's the back wall of that skylight. And then from these 2 points, go to the vanishing point. As you work on this, you should see that there's convergence. In other words, you can see that these lines are angled so that they will meet. If they're parallel or it's going off in this direction, you got it wrong. Okay, that's the skylight. The window would be the same way. Let's see. Let's stick a window over here. The window same height as the door. Pick out the width of your window. See, I just extended the top of the door, so that gives me the height. And then just pick out a size of the window. Have it above and below the horizon line. That goes to the vanishing point. So just like the skylight, this would be a 90-degree rectangle. And this plane here is parallel to the plane of the back wall. And then these lines go to the vanishing point. There's the window. The picture on the wall, I can sketch that in pretty quick here. 2 parallel lines, vanishing point, vanishing point. Add some thickness to the picture frame because it comes out from the wall a little bit. So this is a 90-degree rectangle that's parallel to this plane. Notice how these are straight across. Okay, last thing, or 2 more things. The stairs. Now I'm going to erase part of this slab so that it doesn't interfere with. Okay. Here's a floor plan of the stairs on the floor, parallel to the back wall, and then this plane would have a line that goes to the vanishing point. That's the floor plan of the stairs. Now, divide this line right here. Whoops, I'm not doing it right. Hang on. Okay, so here's your dimensions of the stairway, about this size right here. And bring it out far enough so that you don't want it too narrow. Bring it out far enough. This goes to the vanishing point. I just picked out a depth to it, okay? Now, divide this line right here in the thirds. Be very accurate. Divide that line into thirds. Okay. So this is where the stairway touches the wall. And let's just pick out a height for the stairs. Right about here, I'm going to do it. And that's going to go to the vanishing point. So if I make a cube, parallel to the back wall, you can see how you get these just like in the blocks. To the vanishing point, this point would go up to here, complete the cube. Okay, so now you've got these 3 points marked. So extend this one up here. These represent the 3 steps. And another one, let's see. Oh, okay. And then also divide this line into thirds because we're going to do 3 steps. So right about there looks about equal thirds. So you drop this down from here, go straight across. I think we're going to end up with 4. That's all right. No, that's 3. Yeah. See what I did? I just brought this down. These are my divisions. I go straight across. That gives me the second step. Same with right here. And then this line goes up. See the grid that I've got in there? You kind of have an imaginary grid. The trick is divide this into thirds, this into thirds, draw a grid across there, and basically you'll have the profile of the steps. And then it's just a matter of vanishing point. Each one of these goes to the vanishing point. So this goes all the way across to here where it intersects here. This is where you need to be very accurate. And you'll drop that straight down. That is the corresponding point of that point. Comes out straight across. And that point where these two intersect, drop that straight down. And where that intersects this line to the vanishing point, go straight across. Now, if they don't line up, just kind of fudge it. The trick is divide, once you get this front of the cube drawn, divide that up into 3 by 3 grid. Okay, the last thing, I'm sorry this is such a long video. I'm trying to go fast, but without missing something. Okay, the bookcase. I'm going to erase part of this part of the doorway. Okay, here is the floor plan of the bookcase. I'm just picking a depth that looks like the depth of a bookcase. And there's the floor plan. So let's make this into a cubical shape. Pick out a height. Go into the vanishing point right about there. From this point, see now I've got just like the blocks we did, I've got a 90-degree rectangle. Vanishing point. Okay. If you just put one shelf in this, that's fine. Okay. Since this has thickness to it, it's not just made out of a piece of cardboard. So here's the thickness all the way around. I'm just putting in a line that would represent the thickness of the bookcase. Now, for practical purposes, even though technically this line would go to the vanishing point, they're so small and short and so close together, I'm just making it parallel to that line next to it. Okay, there's the thickness of it. Now this needs to go to the vanishing point, so I'll have a shelf here. One shelf is enough, I guess. There's the thickness of the shelf. Now, right now, it looks kind of weird here. So this is kind of like the window. That line that goes across where you can't even see it. This line that goes straight across, this is like the shelf of the bookcase. So right here, that's going to go straight across from that point right there. And right here, it's going to go straight across parallel to the back wall. Okay, once you're all done, take your pencil, then darken in. You can sharpen up some of these lines. I'm not going to do the whole thing. Nice, sharpen your, so you get a nice sharp point, and you can correct some of these lines that maybe are wavy or whatever, okay? So that it's easy to trace. You want nice, accurate lines. No rulers. I'll know if you used a ruler or not, because I will take off if I detect the use of a ruler. So that was the deal. You get to use a pencil. So if you need to erase, you can. There, that's pretty accurate. Okay, that should do it. I've got everything. That's why you want to draw a light, and then you can come back and darken in the things that will help it to be a little more believable and to show the overlap, such as that. Don't erase your construction lines. I want to see all your construction lines. Leave those on there. This isn't going to be the finished piece anyway. Okay, try to keep things in pretty close proportion. Okay, you don't have to worry about drawing cabinet doors on this at this point. But you want to darken in all your lines so they really pop with a sharp, sharp pencil. Okay, that should do it. That should conclude it. Hope this helps. This is due Thursday. There's pretty much mine. Okay. But again, darken in your lines with a very sharp pencil, kind of correct some of these things. Do not erase your construction lines. That'll help me see if you had a problem. I'll be able to tell where the problem was. Okay. If you want to, just for composition's sake, if you want to put a picture on this back wall, that might help just to, because we're going to do a rendering of this. If that's a nice, some kind of an abstract picture on that back wall, whatever. Okay, that's it. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys Thursday. Don't forget money for your workbook. You need your markers, okay?